Hey Ashley, allthingsdenture.com. Here I just want to review one of the surveying designs for one of the patients when we send things off to the lab. It's an interesting case because we're using an implant as a positive stop. Additionally, I fabricated a few survey crowns. Excuse me. So let's review the basic framework. We have classically a Kennedy class 2 situation, partially tooth-borne and distal extension. Here's the cast right here. If we were to, depending on how you restore this, this is the implant. Depending on how you restore it, you can call it Kennedy class 3. It's implant supported in some part of your definition. In any event, let's just go over this really quickly. So we have the major connector for this mandibular partial framework is a lingual bar. Now, indications are typically 3 to 4 millimeters gingival to the most gingival portion of the mandibular anterior teeth, and the bar itself is 4 to 5 millimeters, depending on it comes as an already prefabricated wax pattern. This is on the patient's left side, so we're going to be engaging the O&O, the mesiobuccal undercut. I designed the crown to have an O&O or 100ths of an inch undercut, the mesiobuccal portion, and we just have framework step ladder framework on the ridge. Essentially, on the patient's right side, we have again an O&O undercut mesiobuccal on the premolar, and then engaging the distal lingual aspect of this molar, because typically the mandibular molar is already lingually inclined, and trying to engage mesiobuccal undercut on the facial portion is fairly difficult, so we're going to take advantage that it's already lingually inclined, and additionally I added some composite to that. Okay, let's take a look at what the framework's going to be on the cast and how did I arrive to this. Well, patient, what we wanted to do was utilize, this patient had 2 large restorations in these premolars, so instead of fabricating new restorations, just direct composite or amalgam, elected to just place survey crowns. And so we have 2 survey crowns on the premolars. We have this healing abutment that's going to serve as a positive vertical stop. And additionally, we have a tooth-supported abutment on the distal portion here. And there's that lingual composite that I added. So we're going to have bracing on the facial portion and engaging the undercut here. Now, we don't have an indirect retainer because the fulcrum is actually, if the most distal rest on each side, so that being on the premolar this rest seat, and on the right side this rest seat here, this is the fulcrum line. However, I have a rest seat here, so the rest seat, the indirect retainer, which would be perpendicular, see if I can do this, oh yeah, like that, which would be perpendicular, is only going to approximately be 4 to 5 millimeters mesial that. I mean, you could put one in there, but the amount of indirect retention you're going to gain from 4 to 5 millimeters, we discussed this at length, and it's going to be quite minimal. So I used my wax pattern, my diagnostic wax up, scanned it into the CEREC or E4D, not the same thing, but same idea, CAD CAM. So I used the guide planes and the contours I established on my wax up, and I fabricated those into the survey crowns. These are lithium disilicate, and you can see here, actually, okay, so now I've just taken my analyzing rod. I just want to show you a few things. So these are my guide planes that I designed into the lithium disilicate. So initially we had the crowns milled, and then I had to hand adjust it to make sure that the contours are exactly what I wanted. And it is definitely more difficult than I thought it was. So those are the guide planes that are going to, hopefully the intent is to aid in retention. And then that mesiobuccal undercut on the change out rods. So as I'm changing here, one of the important things that I learned in the residency is, and depending on what situation you're in, I mean, I forgot how to survey and design, I'll be honest. So I just sent it to the lab and I hoped that something would come back. And is that wrong? I'll leave that for you to decide. However, what's important is that when you do send off your cast, it's tripoded to according to the way you've surveyed it, and you see that there's no other markings on my cast. And for our lab's sake, that's important, that we have it only written on the lab script and the cast is clean, because the lab is going to duplicate and then wax it up. So you can see there's my mesiobuccal undercut. Zoom in there on that premolar. So that's 1/100th of an inch undercut using a circumferential or cast clasp engaging that. I'm not using wrought wire in this situation. And we're not using an I-bar in this situation either. Now an I-bar is indicated if you have a tissue-supported distal extension, and this is where this is a great learning point for me. If we had a distal extension, as the tissue is compressed and the denture, as the patient goes to bite down and the tissue is compressed, the idea of the I-bar is to disengage mesially and gingivally. Now, because we have a positive vertical stop, we're going to be placing acrylic on there. We don't, the patient, when the patient bites down, the intent is to not have any movement whatsoever of that denture base. So, is the I-bar indicated if you don't have any movement towards the distal extension of the mucosa? I'll let you think about that one. I was made to think about it for a bit. And here I'm just showing you engaging that mesiobuccal undercut, the 100th of an inch, 010 on the mesiobuccal of this premolar. Additionally, you can see we're going to be engaging just right there on the lingual portion of where I place that composite on that molar. So let's see, we've talked about, so we have a mesial rest seat, we have a distal rest seat, positive vertical stop. We're not using an I-bar because we don't have toward the tissue displacement. We have a positive vertical stop. We're not going to be placing we're just going to be placing this acrylic on top of this. The framework is the intention of the framework is to stop approximately here. Just for, and this is actual tissue. And then, so, yeah, guide planes, that's it. So then what's going to happen is that this patient has this is the maxillary cast. Let me zoom out here. So this is the diagnostic wax-up for the maxillary cast. And we have a series of fixed restorations. And the intent now is to have a framework developed, and then we'll have the fixed restorations and provisionals right now, have these porcelain fused to metal restorations, and then once everything's sort of set the teeth in acrylic. And off we go. So I hope that helps in survey design for this partial denture. Cheers.